There you go. Testing 1, 2. It was muted, Pat, sorry. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2.
Let's go get him.
Testing 1, 2. And Mike. Testing 1, 2. Table mic. You hear me now, Pat? Testing 1, 2.
I don't understand why those cameras can't go back and forth. I was going to walk around.
And it overlooked the confluence of 3 rivers, the Muskegon River. It was like, I think it was Detroit. How are you? Director Ortt. Very nice. Actually, now we have everything in one. It didn't take me that long to learn. That's right.
Testing, Patrick. Table mic. Testing.
I don't think he's going to use that anyway.
I know, it's same as that.
Yeah.
Testing.
He likes to move.
Testing, testing, hand mic. Testing. Testing.
Ralph. I reserve.
So you have my number? Yeah. We can go out in December, whatever. But I think, that's okay. Yeah.
You know it's never going to happen. It's a nice dream.
We could go out.
Did you get your hard copy of
Whatever
the
suits you.
outsourced report that they did on the outsourcing?
Yeah, thanks.
My email?
No,
No, I didn't see it by email.
all right.
I saw the GM report.
Should have got it by email as well.
I got the GM report that was
This was the one. Yeah, I just want to make sure you got that because, hey, that's all right. You don't want to have any hard copies here because there's still.
You didn't want anyone, honey?
This is for us.
Okay. All right. Information.
Well, it's just information and it's not on the agenda.
Right.
Kind of goes to Hey, Charlie.
We got time to grab coffee?
Yeah, go
Calling a
ahead.
meeting?
What do you think, Charlie? Okay? There's a little feedback.
It's because it didn't have it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the document that has something in red at the top, but that doesn't work for you. You can print it in color. Okay.
Don't tap it.
Okay.
And we have a live sound guy today. He's going to be working live, so if he hears feedback, he'll be adjusting.
All right, very good. All right, let's get going here. Slow down, get your coffee. Let's go. right, guys, you ready to roll?
He's on his way back.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes from the October 20th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of October 20th, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item is the approval of the minutes from the October 20th special meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from the October 20th special meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Thank you. Last item under minutes is I'll accept a motion for the November 3rd, the meeting minutes from the November 3rd special meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes from the November 3rd special meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Next item is President's remarks. Very quickly, just wanted to affirm that we did have that special meeting on the 3rd. No decisions were made. Very good discussion among the board on the 4 topics that were presented, and we'll have further action on some of them as we move forward. But I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we did have that special meeting, and it was productive. Next item on the agenda: presentation by the Matt Ortt Group. Ralph and Matt, the floor is yours. Or you got a handheld mic there?
You want this, you can have it.
I told him to use this one.
Thank you very much for having us here today. We have 4 quick topics we'd like to go over with the board about situations that could help what we believe to help the F&B department. After our first full summer season, we've identified a couple of issues that we'd like to discuss. We know we have another 6 months to go, but we think that if we talk about these now, we might get ahead of the game going into next year. So the first one is the locker rooms. The first 2 are going to be the beach club. The locker rooms at the beach club. After a full first season of running the beach club with the locker rooms underneath us and being responsible for keeping them neat and clean and stocked, we see that there is the potential for disaster if the key system is actually initiated and kept in place. Keeping the locker rooms and the bathrooms available to only people who've bought the passes to use them is going to be a giant problem when someone wants to use the bathroom and didn't buy their ticket or left their key at home. You know, the people that come to the beach club and come to the pool, they never bring their keys.
You're the only person in this conference.
Their kids forget the keys, and in turn they come to us and the frontline staff to get them into the locker room. If we were to say to someone, I'm sorry, but we're not allowed to let you into the bathrooms because you didn't bring your key, our frontline staff would just be inundated with people who are unbelievably mad that they can't get in to do one of the most basic necessities of life. Now, I know the issue that gets people mad is, say, that family of 4 from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who just happens to be walking down the street and sees that there's locker rooms there and goes in and uses them to go to the bathroom. But here's the only alternative. The alternative is that the family of 4 from Lancaster can't get into the bathrooms. They still have to go to the bathroom. So they come into the restaurant and just use the restaurant's bathroom. But now they're filled with sand and water, and they go up our steps, and then they go into the bathrooms that are used in the banquet room upstairs, and now they're filled with sand and water, and we can't say no. Legally, we have to provide bathrooms, and the last thing we want is a Starbucks episode where we've told someone they can't use the bathroom because they didn't buy a beer, and now we're on the front page of the OC Today. It's kind of a catch-22 with the people who get upset about not outsiders using the bathrooms, but you know, just listen. Our frontline people are going to be called every name in the book, and then they're going to go up the line to our management, and then it's going to come to me, and then eventually you're going to get emails about how horrible we were because we wouldn't let people use the bathrooms. So I'm just asking that maybe someone come up with an idea that's different than forcing people to carry the keys, which they just won't carry. That's just a suggestion. The other thing about the beach club was the renovations. We took a long and hard look at what we had and all the other suggestions that came in from everybody about renovations, and we decided that the beach, unless you were going to knock the whole building down and build a new one, which we don't suggest, by the way, then I think we are who we are, and I think we should be who we are. And we are a beach, pool, resort, grab and go, come in, have a beer, have a crush, have a frozen drink, grab a sandwich. We're not a sit-down restaurant. So we're not going to advocate for rebuilding the upstairs banquet room into a sit-down restaurant because of the stuff that would come with it would be too expensive. Remodeling the kitchen, and we just don't see it working as much as what we have now. Now, that being said, we do think that the upstairs needs to get its windows replaced. They have to be at least 40 years old, they don't work, and they're unsightly. Also, the roof line in the front of the building should be raised up. It's such a beautiful view from upstairs, and the roof pitches down. Now, it pitches down the sides of the building, so that's great. But in the front, it pitches down, and you can't see the ocean, which is, you know, why we're there. Downstairs, what we'd like to do is, we extended the bar about 6 feet this year. We'd like to actually take that bar on the inside and extend it all the way across the room to the very last door. Put in windows, sliding windows in front of there, have stools on both sides of that bar, and be able to serve drinks to the public who aren't sitting at the bar through 2 separate entrances. We don't find that addition to be very expensive at all. We added on this last year's bar, added onto the bar, and put a brand new bar top on for $3,000, and it looks great. So that's what we're suggesting there. We're not suggesting any sort of addition to the kitchen, none. Leave it the way it is. Maybe we just tweak the food a little bit to make it a little bit healthier, a little bit nicer, keep the price point the same. You know, now we know what we're doing there. We think we can get that through. Next on the that we have, number 3, is I know we have previously submitted a proposal for Toast, which is a POS system for the yacht club. I don't know, does it need to be put in the record or officially with you guys here? Should I just drop this off to you guys? Yeah, okay. This is our suggestion for the POS system, which desperately needs to be changed at the yacht club, and we got a really good deal on it, better than any other deal we could get, and it's state-of-the-art stuff. It's going to allow us to take orders for at the pool, for example, right there tableside. The order gets sent in via the airwaves to the kitchen who makes it, and someone comes running out. Before the girl even leaves with the pad, that food could be coming into the pool area. It's going to increase our service a lot. Lastly, we have the yacht club. We have some additions we'd like to make to the banquet room upstairs, which includes painting. We're getting some pushback from potential brides about the datedness look of the wood. Now, the room itself looks great. The view is spectacular. The design and the layout of the room, fine. We don't need anything done to the bars, to the kitchen, any of that stuff. Just maybe a fresh coat of paint to get rid of the wood around the trim and around the bottom. We do need some equipment to better store and move tables because there isn't anything there and it's scraping up that beautiful wood floor. So, without having to get that thing repolished, which it probably needed to be before we got there, it's just gotten worse. All that stuff together came to around $9,000 for all of it, including the painting of the wood. So again, not a lot of expense, but I think that it's really going to go a long way in getting the room booked more for down the year. Which, by the way, the good news is we have 19 weddings already booked for next year, and that's the good news. So those are the only 4 issues that I had. And again, I want to thank you guys for allowing us to present them to you. I don't know if you want me to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions? John? You need to.
So, first of all, just listening to all these recommendations, and they're pretty good. They are good. The first question I have to everybody, and maybe I'm missing something, is why is this being presented to the board today at a board meeting when we have a GM and a finance lead that oversee the contract? What am I missing? Has this been brought to them? Have we had the discussions with the GM and the finance lead, or did we just go straight to the board?
I did send this to Mr. Bailey.
Okay.
It was to Mr. Bailey, and then he asked me to show up here. That is the email.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand, because I'm hearing different things. So you're saying that you went to, you don't have to, I believe you. So you're saying you went to the GM, and the GM instructed you to come directly to the board? If so, that's fine. I just want to know.
Well, there's the email to Mr. Bailey.
You don't have to. It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
We don't know how this all works.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
We know what we do. We don't know how this works.
Okay. So they're in a contract with us for 4 months, and I believe them. They don't understand how it works. I know there's issues here. Somebody's got to address them. I know what they are. I'll be glad to talk to any board member or anybody else after the meeting. A lot of renovations. Renovations are good. Everything I saw that you're there, and again, it's not up to me or whatever, all good stuff. And you're certainly asking for more renovations, and that's certainly within what Ocean Pines has given to the Madward company. We've given free rent, renovations, free marketing that nobody even realized, and that's fine. I wasn't here, but there is marketing. It's in a different department. Now, a POS system. It's very important to have a very good POS system. We have one. I understand you're asking for it state of the art. Hopefully it works with everything else we have. If you're saying it's state of the art, I don't know, can you hear me? Matt, can you hear me? Yeah? If you're saying state of the art, I believe you. But I'm just pointing out that, any restaurant, anybody in that business, and I happen to have a lot of friends in it, those are your key expenses. Rent, renovations, POS system, very important, all very important, and marketing. And that is everything that Ocean Pines has brought to the table, and I'm sure they will do it. I just don't understand, and you're saying you don't, and that's fine, how this process has been working. And I think everybody else in this room that is from Ocean Pines needs to understand something's not right here. Not saying who it is, but something's not right, and it's not flowing right. And the only thing I can tell the people of Ocean Pines, it's going to cost you money.
So, no, go ahead.
Do we get a chance to respond to that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Matt, go ahead.
I'm not really sure what's going on. The POS was discussed last year during our new contract negotiations. We explained that it's not PCI compliant. We were told at that time there was $56,000 in reserve money for purchasing of equipment. Example, we got a phone call from somebody from Ocean Pines asking about an oven. Somebody said that oven is due to be replaced now. That oven works. So we said, let's not replace that oven. The POS is non-compliant. It was discussed in our first issue. It was also discussed in our first contract. When the new board came about, you guys did some tours of the building. We were asked to do some scope of works and to make some suggestions. That's all we've done here today.
No, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. I'm just pointing out that you are getting it, that it has been addressed, and here's what Ocean Pines is bringing to the table. In no way, with what I just said, am I saying you shouldn't have it. I'm just pointing out, here's all the things that are needed. Here's what Ocean Pines is paying for. That's all I'm saying there. So yeah, point of sale system, sure. The main point I'm making is I don't understand how this is working, why Matt Ortt is here today coming to the board. Maybe I missed something, maybe I wasn't around. But I was told, and now I understand, they're saying that the GM told them, after they sent an email, to go to the board. I'm fine, my question was answered. That's all I'm doing here, nothing else. Now it's up to the board.
Thanks, Doug. Just to comment on John Viola's remarks, he makes a very important point. A lot of the things that we heard from Matt and Ralph this morning are operational, and really they rest and they are the ownership of the general manager and the staff. It is also good that the board has heard from Matt and Ralph this morning as to what they are recommending. I have 3 questions. I would like to know whether you have provided general manager with the cost estimates that are related to the recommendations that you're making. What is actually this going to cost us to make the improvements to the beach club and the yacht club? You only made reference to the upstairs for the yacht club, and we do have cost on a POS system. But as a whole, are you going to be able to provide that number to the general manager? Do you already have it, and can you tell that to the board this morning?
Well, we can, but before we went through the process of getting the quotes, that we wanted to make sure that we were allowed.
People on TV can't hear you without a mic.
Got it.
Yeah, he's got, yeah, here it is.
Before we went ahead and got the quotes, we wanted to go through the process to make sure that we were allowed to get the quotes. We didn't want to overstep our boundaries, but we can do that. I mean, that's what we do. We can get quotes to do everything that we suggested, just like we did with the POS, which we already knew we needed. So that's why we got that quote, as opposed to the windows, which we don't have the authority to do.
Well, just to respond to that, a couple of months ago, the board passed a motion that actually gave the general manager a green light and Matt Ortt companies to really come up with a plan for the beach club renovation and to come back to us with the cost estimates and a proposal. So it's now up to you and the GM to get back to us with that information. So, I encourage you to continue to do that. My second question is really about the POS system and your recommendation. What concerns me is that you basically said that what we have is not PCI compliant. I recall that actually the board was asked to authorize a purchase of a POS system about a year or 2 ago. I think we bought 2 different ones. So are you basically telling the board now that what we purchased a year or 2 ago was actually not PCI compliant and therefore not really something that we should continue to use?
The POS system we're using now is a micro system that I believe you've owned for at least 10 years? A good 10 years.
Yeah. Well, we did buy a new system about a year and a half ago. The acting GM did procure, I forgot what the name it was. Touch Bistro Square, there you go. Okay, so this was basically a bad purchase and something that is not working. Okay.
If we had the choice of taking the one that he bought 2 years ago versus the micros was far and away above the quality of what we needed. But again, it's 10 years old, with 10 years worth of old software and not PCI compliant. But in May, when we came in, there was no way we were going to be able to get a new POS system in and programmed and ready to go by the time we unlocked the door 17 days later. It would have been physically impossible. So we just went through this year with what we had.
I'm not questioning your recommendations. I just think for the purpose of the membership and transparency, I think, considering that we already made the investments a year and a half ago in a couple of systems, I can now understand why you're making a recommendation that we invest in a toast, and it's not the toast that comes out of a toaster, but so I think you've answered my questions, and I think as far as the estimates, you already have a green light, and General Manager has a green light to come back to the board with a request for funding for the improvements to the yacht club and beach club. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
All right, Esther, let's make one more comment as we wrap this up.
We won't belabor this. Welcome to OPA land. This is the confusion that goes along with life. So here's the bottom line. Work with the GM, get us some numbers. I'm interested in hearing, you're talking about renovating the upstairs. I know you don't want to make it a full-service restaurant. Is that purely for banquets that you're looking, small banquets that you're looking to use it for? Just to make understanding?
Yep. Banquets, yep.
Okay. At this point, work with the GM, get us some numbers, and we'll call it a day.
You got a deal.
Yeah, let me add. I think one of the takeaways here is we talked about transparency. You know, Matt and Ralph wanted to come before the membership and share with everybody their thoughts. So that was the benefit when they asked to, and I can vouch for them. They went to the GM, and the idea was here's an opportunity to use that word transparency in the right way. So you heard it right from the horse's mouth. You know exactly where we are right now. So as we discuss this issue, everybody's got data. We're not behind closed doors, with some clandestine meeting that's ready to usurp every bit of authority within Ocean Pines. So that's the benefit here of just trying to get these guys in front of everybody so everybody's aware of where they sit on these issues. So, all right, Matt, Ralph, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a presentation by the PRMC, and Steve Leonard, the floor is yours.
I hope you don't ask me how I got invited here, but I don't have that. But anyway, all right, cool. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, thank you. Again, thank you for allowing me to have just a couple minutes. My name is Steve Leonard. I'm the President and CEO of Peninsula Regional Health System, and it is a privilege and honor to be here. It's also a privilege to be able to support the healthcare-related needs of the community with our health pavilion right at the entrance to the North Gate, which we've had there for a couple years. My goal today was just to kind of give you a little bit of an update as to what's going on in our world and kind of what we're looking to continue doing at the health pavilion at the North Gate, and then perhaps to answer any easy questions. So some things that are going on at the hospital, just for, so folks are aware, it's amazing when we think about what's here at the Medical Center in Salisbury. We quietly turned 121 years old, October 1st of this year, and we're always amazed at what we're able to provide the region, for lack of a better word. I think when folks look where to go for retirement or where to buy housing, schools and healthcare are really the main drivers for folks, and I think we're really fortunate here on the shore to have some of the local capabilities of AGH and then some of the tertiary care-related needs that we're able to provide when folks really need complex services in Salisbury. So we're proud to be able to offer those services. In the Maryland healthcare world these days, people have heard me say for 121 years now, we've gotten really good at taking care of people when they're sick or injured. If you have a major medical event, that's where you want to be. For the last 3, 4, 5 years, much more of our focus has been on keeping people healthy and well and actually out of the hospital. We'll be there when you need us, and knock on wood, it's not often, but really much of our expansion has been around keeping people healthy and well. Thus, the pavilion at the North Gate. What we realize is that how do you do that? How do you engage people? It's got to be close to home and convenient. So those were the reasons we started building in Millsboro. We started the Ocean Pines, the pavilion at the North Gate, and we're much more focused on providing easy access throughout the entire region. So there's a little bit less stuff going on at the hospital proper these days, and more focus going on at these regional campuses. The team's doing a great job. I'm proud to say that besides some of the stuff you hear about like health grades and the CMS and the 5-star stuff, we actually found out this past week that we were the only hospital in Delmarva that was A-rated from the Leapfrog organization for patient safety. Leapfrog is actually an assembly of employers that rate hospitals. So we were one of 7 or so hospitals in the state of Maryland, the only one on the peninsula, and I think it's just another testament to the amazing team that we have providing care when folks really need it when they're sick or injured. A couple things going on as we talk about specifically the pavilion here next to Ocean Pines. So as folks know, we've got buildings 1 and 2, family medicine. We really need to have more family medicine providers. There's an access issue. We understand that. We're trying really hard to recruit recruit more family medicine providers to specifically this community in Berlin. We just completed our medical staff needs assessment right now. I could hire 15 family practice physicians right now, and that's the degree of access that our region has. And with retirements coming over the next 5 years, I need another 15. So please know that that's top of mind for us, is physician recruitment. Right now, Building 1 has a family practice medicine office with 6 providers in it. I anticipate adding another family practice site, internal medicine site, to that campus, because that is a pinch point for us, and we do realize it's a pinch point for most organizations these days. So aside from family medicine, folks know we have the lab and the pharmacy and cardiac rehab there. We're trying to expand that and getting into more pulmonary rehab as well, trying to keep people, again, healthy and well. Obviously, the building number 2, the Cancer Center, has been doing great. We opened up that about a year ago, and we're already, and this is one of those things that in many ways is unfortunate, but at the same time we're fortunate to be there. We're past, I think, year 3 expectations for volume already. So we opened it a year ago, and we're already into the 3rd year of what we thought the volume would be. And it's unfortunate that it's needed, but it's, like I said, it's fortunate that it's close to home and people are getting the services that they need. Most folks might have seen that we broke ground, and we're actually, I drove by this morning, the foundation's there, you know, on the GI Center. So we're moving Dr. Jerry Kanakis. If you know Dr. Kanakis, he came on board. Right now, his office is still down in Berlin, but he's doing procedures in Salisbury. Next year, this time, over the summer actually, that building will be open, and Dr. Kanakis, along with a couple of other providers, will be doing colonoscopies in that building. Again, a great service, and let's face it, it's one of those things from a preventative medicine perspective, not everyone gets done, and everyone should be getting it done. So we're happy to be able to provide that. The other half of that building, right now, just so you know, we're toying between an urgent care center. We just completed a demand study, and it would seem that there is demand for urgent care, up to 40 visits a day right in that location, given the size of the community and what's going on here. So right now we're looking at potentially working with our partners at Urdoxin and establishing an urgent care center. That's one option for the other half of that building. Another option we're looking at is, again, primary care and primary care internal medicine. So that's that building. And then finally, the big building, as we call it, we're programming out right now, which is about a 70,000 square foot building. There's traffic considerations. There's a lot that the developer's working on right now, but that'll be in the back of that property. And we're working with a number of other specialists to actually move their offices to the Ocean Pines community. So I can't get into specifics, but imagine your normal specialist that you need as a part of life. That's what we're looking there. A couple that I know that we're committed to that are part of the PRMC portfolio are things like full-time pulmonology. That is an important service. We get into some of our surgical-related needs, you know, follow-up for either neurosurgery or CV surgery, things along those lines. But like I said, we have a number of other specialists that are working right now with the developer, and I'm hopeful that those announcements will come soon as to when specifically they can break ground and follow through on that building. Finally, what you may have noticed, and it's a small, subtle change, but we are rebranding our ambulatory campuses to be more community-specific. So they were always called Delmarva Health Pavilion at Millsboro, Delmarva Health Pavilion at Ocean Pines. We're in the process of rebranding them. I'm kind of a simple person, quite honestly, and just calling it what it is, Ocean Pines Health Pavilion. So you might have noticed the signs in Millsboro Health Pavilion, and you can kind of look around the clock. Eventually, you can think about things like Snow Hill, Pocomoke, and go around the clock as far as really having these pavilions, again, close to home so the community can identify a relationship. Again, it's all about health and wellness and kind of keeping you out of the big house, as we fondly say. So I'll stop there. And she's got my email coverage as well. But any questions that you're curious about? Yes.
Do you guys do studies of mental health needs in this
Yes,
area?
we absolutely do. We're behavioral health. It's a large spectrum of needs. And no one organization has really licked this, quite honestly, but it is such a prevalent need. We did a study recently where 30% of our ER patients have an underlying behavioral health-related need. We do 90,000 ER visits a year. So think about 30,000 or so of the patients coming in, either complex behavioral health-related needs or depression, anxiety, the whole spectrum. So we are actively looking at how do we better meet the needs of the community. We have partnered traditionally with a couple of hospitals across the bridge to provide behavioral health expertise to this community, places like Shepherd, Pratt, and Adventist. They've decided that they are not able to partner with organizations like us anymore. So what we decided last year in January when I took over was that we need to internalize this competency. Like we take care of open heart patients so well, we need to take care of behavioral health patients just as well. So we started hiring a team, essentially, to build a behavioral health service line, which we haven't always had before. So we do acute inpatient adult work at the hospital. We actually also, last March, put in for a certificate of need. We're going to add 15 inpatient child and adolescent beds, because every night there's about 10 kids from our immediate area here who have to spend the night elsewhere when they have a crisis or emergent related need. So we'll have inpatient, we'll have adult and child, we'll have partial hospitalization for both, and the next thing we're doing is trying to identify a spectrum of community related providers. So shorter answer is we need to treat this like our other service lines and get just as good at it, and that's the process that we're starting at this point in time. Yeah.
I'll entertain one more question from the audience. You got to step up to the microphone so the people at the, that are listening online can hear.
First of all, congratulations on getting Dr. DeAngelus. He's a great guy.
He's awesome.
Second, my wife goes to an oncologist at PRMC who comes from Mercy.
Dr. Dwight M.
Correct.
Yes.
He's another great guy.
He's amazing.
Is that something that, how does that work? Do you promote that? How's that connection work, since he's a Mercy Hospital associated doctor at where she had her initial treatment? Was fortunate enough to know that he comes down here about once a month, and she's able to see him.
Yeah. So Dr. Dwight M., GYN oncologist. So you have oncology as a specialty, GYN oncologist. He is a subspecialist, and he is amazing. He does more work than anyone practically on the East Coast or the country in this area. So we've had a very good contract with Mercy for a number of years now, where he comes down, he does procedures at our hospital, and he does follow-up visits at our hospital twice a month. Sometimes folks, it's not good to wait, so they have procedures up at Mercy, but he's able to follow folks here. It's been a great relationship for many years. We anticipate keeping that relationship, and he does it, he's a saint, quite honestly, because he works hard, and he does it with a number of facilities like this where he'll travel around, and we absolutely anticipate continuing that relationship because he is awesome.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Well, Steve, thank you very much, and we're very glad that PRMC is part of the Ocean Pines community.
And we're glad to be here with you, and we'll see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, we have a couple of gentlemen from Republic Services. So, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Anthony Spirito. I'm the division manager for Republic Services. I transferred here about a year ago. I'm also a resident of Ocean Pines, so with that transfer came a relocation, and my family and I are really enjoying the community. With me, I have Dominic Fulginiti. He is our area muni manager. One of the things we wanted to discuss today is the recycling market and a crisis that we're kind of seeing in our industry, and this is not just something that's local, it's something that we're experiencing. Thank you for nodding. Right now, the way that recycling works, the material, there's really not a strong market for the material. And the market that is out there for the material is really kind of tightening up on how contaminated that material can or can't be. You know, you go back, and I've been in the business, I don't have trash in my blood like some of my fellow employees that work with me, but what I will tell you is that 10 years ago, the contamination, no one cared. They took the material, it went overseas, they processed it, and they reused it. Now, it's more of a struggle. We've seen the contamination rates go from pretty much 8% up to about 30%. So what happens is when we have contaminated recycling, there's additional processing fees that usually goes on to the hauler, which of course we try to recover through our customers, and that's something that we're doing right now, kind of twofold. Want to have a chance to educate everyone as to what exactly is going on and what we can do as a community to help improve that contamination. In this, yes, perfect. So I'll let Dominic kind of talk a little bit about the China Sword. And
sure. Good morning, everyone. China Sword was an initiative by the Chinese government. It was built on the back of something called Green Fence, which was in 2014. China has some tremendous environmental challenges throughout the country that they're dealing with. And so I'll explain a little bit about what China Sword means to the recycling markets and why it's impacting costs. And then we'll jump into some potential things that we can do to keep recycling in Ocean Pines. So China takes in, from the world, they take about 40% of the world's recycled material. So single-stream material is gathered in communities and government entities across the United States and in Europe. It's sent to a materials recycling facility, typically, where it's separated, the residuals removed, and the material is baled and then marketed to producers for reuse. So in 2017, obviously, this China Sword came online, and there's two specific things that happened with this. So the contamination for a ton of recycled material went from 3% down to 0.5%. So it doesn't sound like a dramatic change, but when you compound that and you start to scale that up, it's pretty amazing. So to break it down, though, in 2016, if you delivered a ton of recycled material from Ocean Pines, let's say 60 pounds of it could have been trash, and that still would have been acceptable, and they still would have purchased it for $90, $100 per ton, let's say. So what they've done now is move that to 0.5%. So that 60 pounds is now 10 pounds that is acceptable. And the materials recycling facilities, they were set up to process at 3%. So you can get to 0.5% non-contamination. That's 99.5% pure recycled material, but it causes capital investments and increase in manpower, so the costs skyrocket. So this has happened all across the country, not just in Maryland and Delaware. So that was step one. Step two was they banned all mixed paper. So it's kind of a shocking thing to all of us. If we look in our containers at our houses, 20% of what's in everyone's container is actually mixed paper. So mixed paper you can think of as anything that's not cardboard. So you have this situation where obviously they want almost completely clean material, and two, they've eliminated a stream of revenue. Just to be clear, mixed paper generated revenue. So Anthony alluded to one point. The industry traditionally had been built on this idea of processing materials and having commodity values. And at the end of the day, those commodity values would buttress the hauling and collections, fuel, manpower costs. That model is not sustainable moving forward. We don't foresee that to occur again. While it still will be a commodities market, the contracts are going to have to get a little bit more transparent as to what recycling is worth and how it helps or hurts the community from an economic standpoint. This is a sample picture. I'll let Anthony jump in.
So one of the initiatives I took on when I took over the division in November was try to find other resources to bring the material to see if I can get a less tipping fee. These are two examples of recycling material that came directly from Ocean Pines. One thing about this contract, we have 3 routes that run here on Thursdays and Friday, and that's all they pick up. I went to 4 different outlets to see if they would accept the material, and all 4 of them turned me away. Only one allowed me to actually empty it on the floor. The other 3, when I opened up the tailgate of the truck, said, no, thank you, we're not interested in that material. If you look at that, and you just think in your mind, recycling, plastics, paper, cardboard, you can see there's a lot of mixed material in there. One of the other challenges that we have in our community is the confusion about yard waste. So when I moved here in November, I think I raked up about 3 years' worth of leaves. Thank God we have a doctor's facility coming up because my lower back still has not recovered from that. But a lot of those leaves, we try to find some place to put them, right? We have a 4-bag limit for yard waste, and those leaves tend to make it into the recycling bin. And of course, that adds to the contamination. I personally saw that. I went out on a resop, rode on the back of the truck, picked up about 18 containers, and I'm telling you, 16 of the 18 containers in the springtime were contaminated with yard waste. So the contamination is real. You got the next slide. You want to take?
So there's a couple things that can happen. Just to be clear, to simplify everything that we're saying, when we think about a ton of trash material that's being disposed of, let's say the cost is $65 going into Delaware County or Delaware Solid Waste Authority or one of these Maryland sites. To process a ton of recycling material is now upwards of $100 a ton. So again, these are all changes that have happened in the last year, and so we factored in disposal increases, but not to this extent. So moving forward, we sort of brainstormed what can we do to continue to recycle. We met with Mr. Bailey numerous times. We've educated him on the potential issues, and he recommended we come here and speak with you guys and kind of start this conversation. So a couple things that we could do to address the shortfall. This is a short-term solution, but would be helpful. We could institute a 3% increase effective January 1st, 2019 to address the shortfall due to the disposal costs going up. Again, that's a small fee. I think that comes out to 60 cents per unit per month. It's not something that I don't think would be overly impactful, but would help at least keep the contract not profitable, but not in the red, let's say. The other thing that we could do that would cost nothing for Ocean Pines and potentially could yield a better stream of material is eliminate the curbside recycling program and move to, and we'd be open to discussing how to do this. We have some ideas. Drop-off sites. So throughout the community, we could put commercial containers up to 6, 8, whatever we need to do, and provide the residents an opportunity to basically bring their material. What we found is if the people, the residents are bringing their material to a public site, they're more likely to have a cleaner stream, and therefore the material wouldn't be as contaminated. That would offset the disposal costs, and so if we were to do that, obviously we would have to do some things internally, but there'd be no changes in pricing whatsoever for 2019 if we went to that. The third option is to not recycle, but we didn't want to go there just yet. We wanted to present these two first. And then obviously the public education programs, what we're doing, because again, a lot of this relates to at the curb, what's recyclable and what's not. And so everything that we do kind of revolves around two talking points. The first one being what to recycle, and that's where this always, never, and sometimes comes in with the pictographs. And then the other one is how to recycle, and the mantra there is empty, clean, and dry. So that's probably something a lot of folks don't know, but when you throw materials into the recycling material, they need to be clean, free of debris, because otherwise they destroy the other streams potentially. So we can work with you. We have many different sites, not sites, but avenues and media that we can help you. We can post on your website, like informational videos.
Yeah, so back in June, we did, Michelle was kind enough to post a kind of educational form of what to recycle, what not to recycle. And, the education piece, we had big truck day that was scheduled, unfortunately, due to the weather, was rescheduled. But they're great opportunities for us to get out in the public, not only have it be an engagement day in the community, but also educate anyone that comes up to the trucks. Other ideas that I have in the spring around Earth Day, maybe seeing if we can do a touch a truck, bringing a couple trucks to the community, also working with maybe like Food Lion and asking if they'll allow me to park a truck in the parking lot. And just as people come in and out of Food Lion, there's a great bang for your buck for a lot of the community going in and out, just to try to educate. It's tough to really educate everyone on this process. I'll tell you, even I get confused at times, and my children and my family will throw a pizza box that still has pizza stuck to the box, but that box immediately becomes contaminated. You can rip off the top of the box as long as there's no grease stains or food stains on it. But it's become a very complicated market, and it used to be, I think the perception was recycling was free because the material is being used. It's now costing us, again, as Dominic said, over $100 a ton. Last year, I believe we picked up about 1,100 tons of recycling. We expected that to be charged to us at $40 a ton, which is what it was in 2017, and now we're up to $100 a ton. So that's where, the 3% ask, which again is 60 cents, what it'll allow us to do is to continue to remove the recycling curbside, and then that'll help offset some of the processing charges. This ask is we're calling it a processing fee. It's not only to, again, here today to Ocean Pines, but it's also to our single subscription customers that are outside this market, as well as our other HOAs and municipal contracts, and it's pretty much a national ask at this point. The other option that we're going to have, and this is where it gets very confusing, is if we see the container is contaminated, we're going to have to tag the container and not take it. And what we don't want to do with that is generate a ton of calls, and Michelle's would wind up receiving those calls, and we would tag, and there would be a note saying why we didn't take it. But it's 60 cents a home. We don't feel it's that great of an ask, so that's where we're at. Sure.
A lot of us here. A lot of us here aren't here full-time, or we don't have a whole lot of trash. And I know I was at another community where they did it one time a week, and the way they did it with their trash cans was everybody that had a Tuesday got a big one on their trash can. They sent it to us through the mail, and that's how they differentiated it, that the ones had to be out on Tuesday as opposed to Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Friday. Was there any way you could do like a one time a week for us? Because a lot of us aren't here.
Yes, so that's a great point. That's one of the things actually we did discuss with JB at one of our meetings. The problem we have with that is we don't have historical data as to how many individuals that would be. And what we have to understand is that the truck still comes into the community twice a week, still drives by those homes, and still eventually collects that garbage, whether it's once a week or twice a week, so the tonnage stays the same. And when we kind of put a bid together, that's what we look at, is the time, the weights, and the maintenance and time of the truck. So really, there's no way for us as a company to save any money by only picking up certain customers once a week, because we still have the same service provided with the trucks driving through the community and the hours worked by the employees.
If the whole community went to once a week,
exactly,
that's different.
Yeah, if the whole community were to go to once a week, then that would be and we know that's not possible. Yeah, we did, and I'm telling you, we did look at about 4 or 5 different options. And the only other thing I would say is, as this RFP comes up to bid, I would like to, I asked that I can have some input, and I have some ideas. And one of my ideas is maybe creating a yard waste pickup. And I think the community would really benefit from, and it could be either be replacing recycling with yard waste or somehow adding yard waste pickup, whether it's 30 weeks out of the year, maybe goes off season in the summertime. But I would be more than happy to sit down with anyone and do a kind of a workshop on that.
All right, we'll entertain one more question so we can keep moving, please. Microphone.
Yes, to
Microphone.
address the yard waste, I was quite dismayed when I came to Ocean Pines, and I said, do you recycle yard waste? Oh, yes, we do, certainly. And then they just dumped it in with the regular. I'm like, wait, that's not recycling, because I do put my yard waste in separate containers.
Yep.
I do not put it in with recycling, and would love to see
Thank you.
some program
Yep.
that you can come up with to address that.
And you know, I don't want to take up too much time, but I have worked in 4 different markets, so I have a lot of experience in pretty much 4 different states, so I think I can be some benefit of working up a contract that might be a good approach for us.
All right, and Frank, I just got texted by Ted. He'd like to say something. You can turn on his microphone real quick. Ted, you've got the floor.
Yeah, I think this is a contractual matter. It is an operations matter, and I think we ought to have this go back to JB and come back to us with where we stand contract-wise and also some recommendations going forward, because we entered into a contract and there's risk on both sides, and I think we need to have a little bit more time to study this thing operationally.
Yep, and that's understood. And JB did suggest that and asked that we provide some options.
Well, Anthony, Dominic, very, very informative information. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Recreation and Parks Committee update. Colette.
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit of information about what the Rec and Park Advisory Committee has been doing. They did do a site visit to the Swim and Racquet Club Park last June and came up with some recommendations, which interestingly align pretty closely with what the GM has recommended for that site now that we're going to be converting it away from storage and staging of bulkhead material. So their recommendation was to repair the 2 existing tennis courts and to turn the other asphalt area into parkland, and so that the community can capture that beautiful vista out there. The other thing that Park and Recs has done and will be doing again this year is a inspection of the parks and an assessment of the parks. So looking at the playground equipment, what's there, inventory it, determine the general condition of the equipment, what other facilities are at the parks, walking track, soccer fields and such, and then determining whether the playground equipment and the access to the park itself is ADA compliant, looking at whether there are restrooms, drinking fountains, and the condition of any fencing. So this is all done in the service of supporting the GM and the Public Works Department in maintaining adequate accessibility and maintenance and safety at these parks.
Thank you, Colette. Next item on the agenda, Treasurer's Report. John?
Thank you, Doug. I want to apologize. There aren't slides in there. I did this last night. Originally, there was not going to be a treasurer's report, but I did do one last night. So the monthly financial update. Normally at the board meetings, I present the financial situation of Ocean Pines based upon the prior month. Due to the change in the dates for the board meetings, it doesn't necessarily line up when our financials are completed. So today or yesterday was the 7th workday of the close. So our finance director needs 13 workdays to close the books. And it's been like that for years, and that's fine. So we wouldn't have it for today, but I do want to give an update, and I do owe something, and I understand when I got an email from Doug last night. What Doug asked me to say, or if it's true or not, is nothing I am aware of has changed materially since the update I gave on October 20th. And I thought about that, and I can't say that. I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say is that nobody has come to me with anything material or anything that I believe would change our numbers coming into the next month. So I will say that. So we are where we are. Some would say to me, well, if we had the new software, John, if we had the new software, well, the presentation I received in the same room months ago on the new software, the person presenting it said to me, with this new software, this $1 million software, John, you'll get the financials and everybody else on the 12th workday. So what I'm going to say with that is we still wouldn't have the numbers today. That doesn't mean we don't need new software. We need new software. There's no question in my mind that we need it, and it's the right thing. I'm just saying we would not have the numbers today, even with that. What would I expect at this date? I would have expected to have a forecast for 12 months. I owe this to the association and to the board to have a forecast to present. At this time, I do not have a forecast to be presented. I have gotten reasons why, but to be honest with you, outside of me going in there and doing it, which I may do, we need to have a forecast for the next time I sit here, and I believe we will. If not, I will do something. We need a forecast to understand our situation, even with the yacht club or anything else. We don't have that right now, but it will be there. I just want to make a point on the presentation by Matt Ortt. Everything that they presented is definitely viable, definitely reasonable, certainly legit business requests. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that. I agree with those. They're very reasonable. And for any type of restaurant or any type of business, they certainly have the right to ask for that. And I would vote for it. My question was, and I think the lady at the end of the table there, something needs to be fine-tuned on how it's presented. And I think that'll work its way out. My point is not to Matt Ortt, but to Ocean Pines. There is a cost for all of that. Not saying we shouldn't do it. We do need to do it. But there is a cost that will be reflected somewhere in our assessment. Okay, while we talk about assessment, I think it's a good time to talk about the last 5 years on our assessment, just some background. In the annual report that I gave last summer, I explained to everybody in the association that if we take the last 5 years of assessments and we look at it, the increase in the assessment over those 5 years averages less than 1%. Less than 1%. So let's just keep that in mind. A lot of times we hear, oh, the assessments are adequate. And maybe they are. Maybe you feel, that assessment should be cut. And I have a lot of people telling me it should be cut. And we'll go through that with the process. But I just want to remind everybody, over the last 5 years, the increase has been less than 1%. Probably came out to 4% overall. And we did have to cover a huge loss that we sustained a year ago. The reserve study. A memo was issued to the board on 10/15/2018 from B&F. The summary and notes on major capital projects. It's all in there. I believe it's on the website. Yes? So that's there for everybody. The highlights that I want to put out here, especially as it pertains going into the budget and finance time, is this. The B&F committee stated that there should be no further assessment contribution without a viable work plan presented for review and approval for bulkheads, roads, and bridges. I want to make sure everybody understands that. B&F saying, yes, we identified the money in the reserves, and I'll show you where it is, or I'll tell you about it since I don't have the slide up there. But we're stating, just like we did last year, without a viable work plan, no assessment for bulkheads, roads, and bridges. Last year or something, there seemed to be some miscommunication or whatever, that when new board members came on, that B&F just, hey, just charge assessments. We made it clear last year. No assessment without a viable work plan. Now, keep in mind, if work wasn't done on the bulkheads, that work's going to have to be done sooner or later. I'm not saying collect the money, but we did receive a work plan, or we were told that the work would be done. At this stage, it doesn't look like it's all done, but B&F will review it and will make their assessment again at B&F, but in the review in January. At this point, we're saying no further assessment to those two funds. As far as the replacement reserve, we did a review. We did an extensive review on the reserve study. The conclusion that came out was that our reserves at this time are funded properly. Now I'm talking about the replacement reserve. Calculations were done The GM gave us his work plans. They're in there. Yes, there's estimates. We don't have final numbers. You have to have estimates. Whether somebody agrees or disagrees with those estimates, they're in there. They'll change with time. They're not locked into stone. But even with those estimates, we're saying at this time, and the work that needs to be done, that fund seems reasonable. Now, of course, with the new assessment, there will be the funding for depreciation, which will be another topic for another day, but that's in there. But we're not saying to increase it. Now, there is an increase in there, just some assumptions for inflation or contractual increases, whatever, offset by the increases that we receive on the money that we have in there that are earning interest. So that is all there. That's all part of the reserve study. B&F will always be available in any meeting to answer any of the questions there. But again, at this point in time, we're saying there should not be an increase to that, okay? But you still have to fund the depreciation. The biggest thing that came out of the reserve study, and something I've always heard, is, no Taj Mahals. Well, we did a review on it. It's all there. It's transparent. We had the meetings. A lot of work went into it. I had people that even volunteered to help us that had a lot of background. I don't believe there's any Taj Mahals in there. If there is, somebody tell me. The assistant treasurer stated that this is the best planning and budgeting tool we ever had. I believe he's been here a long time. I think it's a very good tool. But like anything else, there's estimates, there's things people aren't going to agree on, but at least we have something going forward, and I think it's good. Look at our reserve balances, which is always very important at the end of September 30th. We had $6 million in the replacement fund. Out of that $6 million, I'm being told that possibly $1.3 million is still going to be spent this year. I haven't seen it, but that's what we have to go by. Of course, if that money's not spent, we reevaluate come budget time. Same thing goes for the bulkheads. We have $3.1 million in there and $1.1 million in roads. The roads is definitely something we'll talk about more, and definitely more in January. We don't want to put money in there if work isn't going to be done. And we need to get a feel for that, and we're still working on that. The budget guidance for 2019-2020, the current assessment, $951. Part of that assessment, as I reviewed in the last board meeting, went to cover approximately $600,000 of our $1.6 million total loss. Just rough math on top of my head this morning at 3 o'clock, that's around $70 out of that $951. That went to pay for the loss for the prior year, $600,000 of it. It was recorded, finance director recorded it, B&F reviewed it. So our $1.6 million loss, which is in the balance sheet, and I've explained that to anybody that has come to me asking me about it, is now down to $1 million. So the question I get, the emails I get at night are, well, what are you going to do with the $1 million? What are you going to recommend? Why are we paying it off? Should we write it off? Should we hang it up in the balance sheet? Let's just put a note. Sure, we can do that. We can certainly do that. But you have reserves. You have money. I'm not saying we have a lot. We have reserves to cover the work that I'm being told that we're doing. When we did the reserve study, I was going to say, all right, but we did not take into account using reserves to pay for $1 million of the loss that's remaining. We believed we would go to course with the assessment. That could change. That could change during the B&F. One thing I did point out during the budget guidance to this board was, hey, we are, out of the $951, let's use that as a base, $70 of it this year went to pay down that loss. Maybe that could be adjusted, relooked at. Certainly can over the next 2, 3, 4 years to spread that out so that we don't have an increase in the assessment. That's something still there for everybody to review. I just want to make sure everybody understands that and where B&F is with that. Where is the majority of our spend? It seems like every time I'm in a meeting, we look at golf, yacht club, whatever. Look, I'm not going to point any of them. But where is the majority of our spend? The majority of our spend is where? Anybody want to tell me? Slobodan does.
Well, you know, I can certainly try to tell you, but I would
Just
say
at high
that
level, just, is
the
it involved?
the three departments that basically spend about 50% of our assessment dollars are Public Works, Police Department, and Administration. Those are,
Exactly.
recurring costs, and about 50% of that comes from the $951.
Hey, John, I'd ask, let's keep this at the report level rather than the discussion level.
Sorry, I apologize on that. I will go back. That's my fault. Slobodan, thank you. I take total responsibility for that. But he's right. That's where our spend is. So if we want to cut spend, and we always want to look at it, obviously, let's look at where the spend is, okay? And I'm not saying we have to cut them. I'm just saying let's look at that. When we look at spend, we all should be looking at metrics, comparables, KPIs, and now we have the business plan. Business plans are very important. Not denying it, we should have it. We did have it years ago, last year, or the year before, actually. The AGM decided they weren't needed, and that's fine. That was his right. I didn't have a problem with it. Certainly should have business plans, not denying that. But let's not lose focus on, if we're going to cut costs, let's make sure we cut the cost where it makes sense. If we cut a cost somewhere where we're already bare minimum, and we just cut across, cut, that's fine. But we're cutting costs at a cost that's going to cost us somewhere else. Let's make sure we have all the information to do it. Strategic plan. Anywhere I've ever worked, we've always had a strategic plan. Agreed with it or not, whatever, we had a strategic plan. I have to be honest with you. In all the years I've been here doing B&F, I've always asked, where's the strategic plan? I have never seen one. I have asked board members, I have asked the previous board members, strategic plan. Nobody has given me an answer on what the strategic plan is. It's important to have one. I went to the site of the Committee for Strategic Planning, and I saw a lot of work was done, but no plan. I saw there were major recommendations to the board, which sounded great to me. But when I asked board members, nobody can tell me. We need a strategic plan. I heard this year now that we're telling the GM to do it. Doesn't matter who does it. We really should have a strategic plan. And just because something's in a strategic plan doesn't mean, 5 years out and 3 years out, doesn't mean we are committed to spend that money. I see a lot of old page, what I call old page from an old playbook. Not saying it's not viable. I'm saying today, the ones I've heard, we've gone down that route before. Sure, we can do it again, but where do you want to spend your time and effort, especially when it's something that we just reviewed in the last couple of years? Again, everybody has their right on that. I'll certainly do whatever I can on it to review it, to address it, to try to put financial numbers against it. Well, we want to lower the assessment. I certainly want to. We do have prior year losses. I addressed that. We want maintenance. I'm hearing board members saying maintenance, and I totally agree with them. There's a cost to that. There's a cost to that that's not in that 951 base number. Sooner or later, we have to pay the maintenance. It's just a matter of time. Sometimes it costs more to maintain it when you don't do the maintenance over time. One place I wouldn't put maintenance money in is that country club. Forensic audit. We have a forensic audit. Don't hear much about it lately. I know why we have it. Didn't disagree with it, but there's a cost. There's a cost in that assessment of 951. It's a cost. It's going to continue to cost. Let's talk legal fees, IT consulting, finance, and audit fees. Let me just tell you what I see going forward. Legal fees this year, we saw, and B&F identified it. We were already over budget, I don't remember, the second month, third month, whatever. Over budget already. I was part of what team that put that budget together and made the recommendations last year. I thought, based upon the prior year, a lot of stuff went on here. I didn't think we'd have that stuff again. Well, we have different types of stuff. The point is this. One, it needs to be monitored. Somebody has to be reviewing it. And I believe we're doing that. It is being done now. My opinion on legal fees going forward, what I see, what I read, what I hear, what people say to me, I believe our legal fees will do nothing but go up. You can blame the lawyers, whatever, they're going to go up. That's my assessment right now. They're not going to go down. IT and consulting, a lot of consulting this year, we saw it. BNF identified it. One BNF member actually went beyond to address it. And I believe what he did and what BNF did, we curtailed those costs. Opinion going forward, those costs are going to do nothing but increase. Finance. Well, I got a stake in this one. Here's what I got to say on this. Ortt. Ortt prepared and did and gave us a reasonable product at a reasonable cost. We do need to update systems. We do need to update our processes, our controls. No question in my mind. A cost will come with that. Everybody has to understand that. That cost somewhere, somehow, will be reflected, my opinion, in the assessment. We have to decide how much we're going to spend. Definitely needs to be upgrading. Definitely needs a new system. Not disagreeing with that. Let's make sure we do it the right way and we touch all bases. Audit fees. The audit fees have gone up in the last couple of years, different audit firm. We got deep dives, low dives, forensic dives. We got all kinds of dives. But guess what? That costs money. Not saying we shouldn't have it. It costs money. Where does that money come from? So when I was looking at the yacht club, and again, and let me just, I don't know if I said this already, but I totally agree with everything they said. Totally agree. And I think everybody else does. And hopefully they understood. I agreed with them. I just didn't understand how this process was working. And obviously somebody else agreed with me. But when I looked at that, I knew about the free rent. I knew about the renovations. I understand the new POS system, not denying it, and it should happen. What I didn't know about in the beginning, and again, I wasn't here, I had a back injury or whatever, nobody wants to know that, but our marketing dollars, we also pay for the marketing of the yacht club. When asked, 2 weeks ago, I was told it's $25,000. That's fine, I'm not saying not to market it. That's a cost. Where is that cost coming from? $951. The other thing when I looked at the marketing costs and everything like that, is it consistent? I mean, Tom's not here, but everybody saw what we did on the aquatics, where I noticed that we were not recognizing our income, booking it consistently. It was getting booked, everything was fine overall, but it wasn't being booked consistently. We went through it, good team, the finance lead, Colby, Ruth Ann, somebody else that I'm missing right now. But with that said, we are able to recognize this year $85,000 of income because we're going to make the revenue recognition consistent. I'm a consistent believer, and that's an accounting principle, and we should do. When I look at the marketing dollars, and I look into it, the marketing dollars basically are in a department. They're not allocated to an amenity. So if we market the aquatics and then I stand up here and give you aquatics numbers, the marketing dollars for that aquatics is not in there, okay? When I stand up here and I give you the golf numbers, the marketing number, the expense, is in the golf numbers. Yes, sir, it is. So, look, nobody's fault. This is the type of stuff that I want to work on, not some of this other stuff that I have to work on. This is key, okay? And that's, again, it's management reporting, okay? The main thing at the end of the day in our consolidated, in our overall numbers, they're in there. But right now, golf is getting hit with a marketing number of, can somebody tell me the number? Denise? Oh, I'm not allowed to ask anybody. Well, I'm being told it's $70,000. That's what I was just told yesterday. I need to get into the admin building and check it. So if you look at the golf numbers, and again, this is nobody's fault, but if you look at the golf numbers, we have made that decision years ago, somebody did, to put the marketing for golf in golf. Not saying it's wrong, and please don't hold me to the 70. That's what I was just told the other day. I need to check it. But it's not consistent. If you want to compare it to aquatics, if you want to compare it to the yacht club, they're not getting charged for marketing. I just want us to be consistent. Again, don't hold me to the 70, but we'll get that number. I thought Steve would be here this morning to go in, but he was not here. Let's go back to budget guidance 2019-2020. I mentioned the kind of stuff that I would like to work on. Here's the rhetoric that I have to work on. Well, we can always rustle up the usual suspects. We can always point at golf, the roads, the drainage, our overall fixed assets. Look at how much they're costing us. We don't need to fund it, okay? There's a cost to that. There's always a cost. You need a cost benefit. You know, if you're going to cut costs, cut them in the right place. Let's hang it up in the balance sheet. Let's put a note. We have the loss. We can certainly do it. The board will make that decision. B&F will make a recommendation. Right now, you pretty much hear what I'm saying is we have a number in our assessment, the basic 951 for it. I think it could be spread out a little more. It'll definitely help with the assessment. Maintenance needs to be in there. You know, we can cut cost, but not at any cost. Think about that one. The other thing I see where we can save, you know, people are saying we can save money. Well, we can finally find the ghost employees at Aquatics. I can't tell you how many times I've been told that we have ghost employees at Aquatics, but we haven't found them. Here's one. Point and utilize cliches. If you have nothing better, just point. Point at the CFO, point at budget and finance, and use some cliches. Again, that's all going to cost money. And this isn't any different from anywhere else. Where are we today? Well, we have a new board. We certainly have new ideas. I'm excited. They come with a multitude of backgrounds. I like what I'm hearing and seeing. Hopefully, we can put it to paper and get results. There are plenty of projects on the list, but what is getting done? To be honest with you, we had a roundtable in Budget and Finance a couple weeks ago. Opened up to all, I actually had 2 board members in there. I think there were some people from the outside, the B&F committee. JB was there, Steve was there. I thought we had a great conversation. I'll call it a roundtable for over an hour. Everybody voiced their opinions, their views. Everybody discussed it. Norms were created, simple norms, basic norms, and everybody adhered to it. I had two directors in there. I believe it was Steve and Slobodan. I thought it went great. And we talked about it. We talked about what was getting, and JB and Steve, compliments to everybody in the B&F team. Everything was discussed. Look, there's a lot of things on it. There's a lot of items on the table. Personally, I could tell you, they're not getting done. Why aren't they getting done? Well, we had a good discussion on it. I will address it from a B&F, a finance standpoint. I know the board will, and I know JB will, and it all will be productive, and we can move forward. Nobody pointed in that room at anybody that day. I thought a lot of good ideas came out of it. But the bottom line is this. Things are not getting done, but I hear this common thread. Well, I'm too busy. Too busy to get anything done. Well, I've heard that before over the years. And when you dig into something like that, you're going to get the answer. The answer could be a lot of different things. A lot of times when I've had a manager tell me, I'm too busy to get what you want me to do done. Well, one thing right off the bat, are you utilizing your team? That's a question. I'm not saying that's happening or not, or we're giving this person too much to do in too many different directions. That has to be sorted out. B&F, management, board, whatever, community. We have to sort that out, and I believe we will. I'm saying this to be productive, not pointing at anybody. The forensic audit is still going on. I know it will definitely be communicated when the time comes. It's going on. When I look at the board, when I look at myself, when I look at the teams, I can put it into 2 categories. And Ann Rand got there before me, and who's Ann Rand? She was a writer. She was an activist or whatever many years ago. There's 2 types of people, producers and obstructors. Some of the people that know me have heard me say this. When I look at myself and my team, I can look at and I can guess who the producers and the obstructors are. I can look at this board and tell you, in my opinion, who the producers and the obstructors are. It doesn't matter if you're a producer or you're an obstructor. Both cost money. point there is when, you know, and producers need to have an obstructed air to keep them in line or whatever like that. But let's make sure that what we're doing makes sense for this community. And it makes sense for 8,500 homeowners, not 6,500 that somebody's representing, or even somebody's representing the people that voted for them and whatever their agenda was. We all have to do what's right for 8,500 homeowners. I try to do that. I try to do that in everything I do. Maybe not. Somebody else could critique me. That's fine. Come to B&F and critique me. Everybody on that table should be addressing what's best for Ocean Pines. 8,500 people. You could smell it when they're not. The last thing on here, the last 5 years of assessments averaged less than 1%. I have gotten some questions at night. They want to know if I'm speaking to the board or am I addressing the board on the yacht club in the present situation. I can tell you any type of questions like that, I always make myself available to the board. I send emails to them. I have met with 5 board members extensively, answered all their questions, history. Didn't give my opinions unless they asked for it. Tried to research the questions they had. I met with 5, if not 6, out of the 7. What is that? That's around 87%. I'll take it. And I have to tell you, they want to know, they want to understand. Whether I agree with them or not doesn't matter. They want to understand what it is. I compliment them on that. Some of them come back and they summarize in an email on their approach and what they believe or what else they need to know. It's pretty good. Now let's just, you know, make it happen. So my end for the rest of the year and everything, I got a very positive attitude with the board. We do have a lot to do. Hopefully we get it done. I'm done.
Thank you, John. All right. Next item on the agenda is the general manager's report. JB's not here today. I'm happy to report his daughter is in, the field hockey team is in the state finals, and we wish him best of luck. He certainly wanted to be here, but the opportunity to be there with his daughter seemed to be more important, and I would agree with that and concur. The family is more important. Yeah, it's the Virginia State Championship, but it's field hockey. Field hockey. So anyway, so JB produced a report. I won't go through it line by line, and it has been posted on the website. For those of you who want to see the GM report, please visit the website. All that current information is there. It's been posted, and I ask that you take some time to take a look at it. Okay? With that in mind, the next item on the agenda is public comments. As with all public comments, please state your name and your address, and keep it to 5 minutes, and proper decorum is always required. Thank you.
Larry Perrone, 19 Clipper Court. And again, I'm here as a representative of the golf community, as president of the Ocean Pines Member Golf Council. We were here to lease the property out. Took place years ago. We had no takers. However, we did turn the management of the course over to Billy Casper, who, as a result, burn out our greens because they put the wrong chemicals on the green. And then we went to Landscapes Unlimited, and the board and some of the members of the board here were involved in the buyout of Landscapes to make them go away. And it cost us $70,000. Again, that number keeps popping up. Where did that $70,000 come from, and who did it get charged to? Well, I think if we look at it, it probably came back to the golf community again for